Hey everyone, and welcome to my Procreate demo for the piece I call the Barbed Monk. Now, I actually did the drawing for this a while ago, and I recently dug it out when I was doing my sketchbook raid and just sort of finding stuff that I still thought was cool. So right there what you saw was a photo of me in my basement finding the sketchbook. Now, somebody asked me if I could show how I do my colorized line technique in Procreate, so I've slowed it down a ton so you can see it right here. So you can see first I leveled it, then I went ahead and desaturated it. In Photoshop, this process is actually a lot easier, but in Procreate you have to do some tricks. So there I used curves next just to brighten the white and darken the black a little bit. And the next thing I'm going to do is, well, I clean it up there too because it was a photo, so it needed to get like a little bit clean, but I wanted to keep some of that black dirty stuff there. So then I create a layer on top, and it's the color that I want the lines to essentially be. Now here's a shot of my layers at this point. It's color, original lines, and then I have a white solid behind it all, and I have the color layer set to lighten. Now, as you can see, this is what it looks like when that color layer is set to normal. And then in a second, there you go. So when you switch to lighten, it takes everything that's dark and it applies the color to that. It won't apply the color to the white. So as soon as it starts going slightly darker, then it starts picking up some of the color. So now the next thing that I do is I take all three of those layers and merge them all into one layer, one master line layer, which is what you see right here. This is the way my layer stack looks at this point, which is just lines. So here you can see exactly what that looks like. It's just the lines now are red. Now that's not exactly the color that I really want, but I need to start figuring out exactly what I want to do with the piece. So here you can see I create a background color and I just name it background, and I wanted to go with something I knew just sort of a parchmenty look, so I fill the background in with that. Then when you switch that top line layer to multiply, this is what happens. It works just like the multiply in Photoshop, where anything that's closer to white goes transparent and anything that's closer to black goes solid. So in this case, all the white is going to pick up the color behind it, and all the lines stay lines. Now right here, all I did was a color shift on those lines because I actually wanted them to be slightly more muted than what I had when I had that bright red line. So now this is the layer stack that I end up working with for a majority of the piece. Lines on top with the original in the background so I can keep the original there if I ever need it. And so this is where I start painting now. Everything in between that background layer and the line layer is essentially where the paint gets applied. And for this one, I originally, way back when, started painting this and I was making it too complicated, and I remember I got dejected and I stopped painting it and just sort of never came back to it, even though I really loved the sketch. So this time I wanted to go with something that was simpler in order to just sort of get it done. Sometimes it's just about getting work done, not necessarily about going for the biggest, boldest thing. Just to sort of make sure you're in the rhythm. So for this one I went with a similar method as to what I did before in the, I believe, the previous video to this. I didn't check, though I should have, like usual. But anyways, what I'm doing here is just a system where I'm going to have a flat, I'm going to have a shadow, I'm going to have a bounce light and a couple of other little tricks here and there, but that's how simple the coloring for this ultimately ends up. So you can see here I'm just going in with like some random paintbrush, nothing too fancy because I want to have a lot of control during this stage. So it was either the round brush or the sort of like first paintbrush that's in Procreate, because I use that one a lot. And I'm just going in and putting in the flats. As soon as all the flats are in, which I don't actually have a screenshot of this, but you can imagine how it goes, but every layer that I have is for each piece of her. So there's like a skin layer, a wrap layer, a like binding layer, a leather layer, whatever that is, a tattoo layer. All of those have their own different layers. And the reason for that is when I go into the coloring process, similar to the previous piece, I'm going to start from bottom to top. So here I duplicate my lines and I darken them so that I can darken up the barbed design, the barbed wire design. And then here I start doing the shadows. So I started with a very light gray purple set to multiply on top of everything. But what I'm doing here is I've selected the skin layer and I'm painting just within the skin layer. And then the next step will be I pick the next layer up from that, I select it, I delete away all of the shadow layer that I've painted that's from that new layer. And then I reselect it because Procreate deselects, unfortunately. And then I continue painting now on for that shape, but still back to my shadow layer. So the entire time I maintain one shadow layer that's set to multiply the whole time, but I'm using selections from my stack and I'm working my way upwards in order to trap the shadow, then clear it, then trap it, then clear it, and I work my way all the way up. So you can see that as I go, the skin layer never gets messed with, and then once I move to the next one, that doesn't get messed with, and then so like right now I'm working on the bindings. I have the bindings selected, and I'm painting just in the bindings. And then I'll move to the next one eventually, which I believe is the metal, and you'll see me all like right where her left elbow is with the big spiky thing coming off of it. In a second you'll see all the shadow that's been smooched onto that is gonna get cleared, and then I'll select that metal layer and I'll start working on that metal layer. And that's what just happened right there. Now there, what I did was I lightened the shadow and I shifted it more to red. I decided that I wanted that more of a tone, that the shadow was way too harsh, but I sort of knew that and it was standing out, and that's why I sort of left it the way that it was. Now here I'm going in and applying the rim light. I wanted to use like a messy brush this time, so I used, I think, the one that they call the Oriental brush, just because it's, or maybe it was the dry brush, I can't remember. It's the one that's like really sort of hard to work with, but I actually wanted it to be hard to work with. I wanted it to sort of resist me a lot, so that I could try to keep it messy and a little bit organic. And I use a little bit of a soft airbrush to erase away, just to soften it in times where it gets a little bit unruly, but for the most part I try to keep it more or less that raw brush. When you zoom in on any aspect of this piece, hopefully the rim light will look a little bit on the messy side. That's the plan, at least. Now in a second here I'm going to zoom in on the bindings, because I switched to a pen in Procreate, like a very slick sort of pen, in order to do the shine on the bindings. So right here you can see that's how I sort of get like suddenly a very sharp brush in there. It's just white set to overlay, I think. And now I quickly messed with the color of the hair there, but decided to go a different way. And now what I'm doing there is building my major flats layer. So I have one big solid shape. That's what this is. I do it a couple times here in the video so that you can see exactly what's going on. I'm essentially selecting all of those layers so that and creating a new layer that's like her master sort of body shape. That way I can use it to select and deselect and do different effects. So there I changed her hair color because I didn't want her to look too much like the monk from Diablo 3, obviously. And then did a duplication of the lines and blurred it, and just a couple of other little things in the background, and that's more or less it. It's a pretty simple structure in how I built this. So I hope you dug this. I hope you dug the line colorization stuff at the beginning, and thanks for watching. And if you're looking for me on the internet, these are the places where you can find me.